Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to our third installment of our webinars for Making STEM Connections. Again, we are getting a few things set up, but just want to make sure everybody can hear okay. If you have any questions or issues while we're going through the webinar today, you can go ahead and put those into the chat room. Patrick is here with us again this evening, and he will be monitoring that chat room. He can either answer questions for you directly in the chat room, or he can convey that to us, and then we can discuss that as a group. So as Patrick was sharing with you earlier in the chat room, we are super excited that Making STEM Connections was again selected as a scale-up program through the Iowa Governor STEM Advisory Council for the 2018-2019 year, which means that if you are interested in continuing this program and getting those more of those additional materials, then the application window will be January 22nd through March 5th. The application can be found on the Iowa STEM website, and if you have questions about the application, please contact your STEM Hub manager. They are the ones that facilitate the application process. We do not see anything that has anything to do with the applications. We don't know anything about the awards until they share that information with us in April. So also what's really exciting is that in addition to Making STEM Connections, our Pint-Sized Science program was also an awarded program for Scale Up. So 4 years ago, Pint-Sized Science was started and was a scale-up program, and then the following year we added Pint-Sized Science 2. We have modified this program to begin to again be called Pint-Sized Science, but it incorporates multiple titles, including those found in Pint-Size 1 as well as Pint-Size 2, and additional and new titles. So I sent out, with this webinar, I had sent out some one-page information about both of those programs to you. So I welcome you to read through those to see if that fits your needs, or if anybody you know might be interested in receiving either one of these products. Please feel free to share those one-page information sheets with them. And if they have any questions about either Making STEM Connections or Pint-Sized Science, please have them contact me and I'll do my best to answer their questions. As we go through today, we're going to talk about technology. That's going to be our focus and our theme for today's webinar. But if you have any questions about that or anything else, again, please put those into the chat room, and Patrick will be monitoring that and he will share that information with us as we go. Are we good? Okay. So I always like to start our webinars by showing you some examples of some projects that I've been working on that might be ideas for how you might use things in your makerspace. So the two that I brought to share with you right now are examples of a light box. I saw at a conference 2 years ago this done on a much larger scale, and I've kind of made my own version of it. So I wanted to show a couple of examples to you. The first one I'm going to show you is a light box or a light can that I made out of an oatmeal can. So what I did was I took an oatmeal container and I cut some panels out of that, so you can kind of see how I did that. And one of the cutouts I covered with parchment paper. So this is the same parchment paper you received in the kit and that we use for fusing plastics. The back part I left open here so that I can add items to my light can. And then I'll show you how that light transmits and the parchment paper ends up becoming a screen. So I brought a couple of items to show. I have in here right now an ornament, a Christmas ornament that has a lot of opportunities for reflection and refraction of the light. I also brought this piece of ribbon that has some really great texture to it. And so I'm going to put that into my light can, and I can arrange that in a lot of different ways so that we get a different image. And then remember last month how we made these little lights out of Christmas lights and I hooked it up to a battery? So I'm going to use that here in my light can, and then we'll see the image that it creates. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn down the lights for a minute and then be able to show you what this looks like. So we're working on turning down the lights, and then you'll be able to see so you can see how the shadows are forming here on the screen. There's some extra shadows because we have some light back here too. But as I move or manipulate these items, or as they turn, then you can see how the image on the screen varies. So I can add different things to it to get different images. We can add lights that are different colors to it as well. And you can see the different textures that are there on the screen. And another option besides this light that we made last time are cubelets. So I brought our cubelets together and created with it this robot that turns. And I'm going to put that here into my light can. And then we can see how those images change as the light turns. So we get different angles from that. You could also take a colored piece of acetate or some kind of plastic and put that over the light from the cubelet, and so you might get a different colored light that works into your light can. What's great about this is that students can make their own versions of this. They can put different things to create different kinds of shadows, different textures, different light, and create lots of different images from that. So these are what I would call a couple of low-tech options for creating a light box, or in this case I called it a light can. But you could make the screen out of anything. It could be made out of just plain white paper. Parchment paper works good because it's so thin. But you could use tissue paper. You could also use fabric and create different kinds of shadows depending on the objects that you have behind it. I have another version of this that is a little bit more high-tech, and it's using the Hummingbird board. So this box over here has a lot more components to it. So I'm going to get this started, and I'll show you some inside images so that you can have an understanding of what it looks like. So I wrote this program very simply in the Create Lab Visual Programmer. Oops. Hold on, technical difficulty. So what I have is I have this plastic glass that's on the inside. And if I put that plastic glass on this little platform, then it spins and creates different images. And those images will change as the program goes through. So I have, it'll kind of run through the program again, and you can see how the lights change. Nothing inside of the box itself is being added or subtracted. I'm just putting different kinds of light in different places, and then that light is reflecting off of or refracting through different objects that are inside of the light box. So you could create a scene or kind of an art installment based on different objects that you have here in your light box. And the program that I wrote for this is a really simple program where I just turn on different LED lights, and I have the motor spinning on the inside. I'll show you some pictures so that you can see that in the PowerPoint here in a second. But what I really love about these light boxes are that you can add all kinds of different things to it and change the image or change the way that it's projected here on the front screen. Again, this is just a plain cardboard box, and I put parchment paper on the front to act as the screen, and then I have workspace back here where I can add all different kinds of things to my light box. So this is just an idea of how you might use technology in different ways using the robotics components that came in your kit. Any thoughts or questions about that? If you do, go ahead and put those into the chat room, and then I will do my best to answer those. So I'm going to move this so it's out of our way for now. My motor is struggling.
They would like to see the back.
Okay, I'd be happy to show it to you. And like I said, I have pictures also that I took earlier. But I'm going to unplug some things to make it a little easier for me to turn this around. So what I have in here, this is this part right here. This is the motor that came from the Hummingbird kit. And I just made a little pedestal or a stand for it. And this sits on top. This is a piece of cardboard and it has the wheel. I'm trying to make it so you can see it in the light. It has the wheel on it, and then I just put that on top so that it rotates. And then I set the plastic cup on it. There's some different pieces of reflective material. There's tin foil, there's some ribbon, some other kinds of plastic. You see the star that's in there. And I also put another one of the blue lights that we made last time using the paper circuit. And I can show you also, I have in the PowerPoint some pictures, some more specific pictures of the back so that you can have a better understanding. In this light, it's kind of hard to see that. So I can show you some pictures. So here's an example of what you see on the front. And here is a different example, or this is what it looks like from the back. So you can see all of the different components that are in there. And some of those components are driven by the battery in the Hummingbird. And then some of them I use the AA batteries from your kit, the AA batteries that are with the charger. So I use some of those as well to do this kit. But what you see in this picture here, you can see different objects hanging from the top of the box. You can see the plastic cup and the motor. See right here. So here's the plastic cup. You can see there's a cardboard piece and then there's a motor underneath it. And then there's different lights hanging from here. There's some reflective paper. There's some tin foil. There's some of that ribbon. And then these lights have different colors to them. And when I was coding and programming it, then I told those lights to turn on or off or have different intensities using the Create Lab Visual Programmer. So I think that light boxes are tons and tons of fun. It's like shadow drawing, but it's using different objects and light in a different way to create those. So I think it could be a great center activity. It could certainly be a project that the students work on and add to or change to see how those shadows affect it. Kind of reminds me of those lamps that rotate and have light inside, and it's like a paper lamp. So they could, create a version of that, their own kind of lamp using a light source, an LED light source. What's nice about LEDs is that they don't get hot. So you don't have the heat being generated like you do in an incandescent light bulb. So that's my little introduction for you of an activity. I have a couple other things I want to show you later on, but I wanted to begin with that, with the light box, just to give you some ideas. And if you try it, send me pictures. I'd love to see it, or videos of your kids experimenting with it. A light can is a great way to start too. It's really simple and easy to manipulate the different objects that are in there. I just attach things to the plastic lid on the top, and then I could change those out if I wanted to. So today's theme that we're going to talk about is technology in the Makerspace, and what does it look like and how can you use it. And so the first theme that I have to share with you, this idea of technology, is to not fear technology. I know that for many people, the word Arduino is a foreign language. They maybe have never heard of it or they don't know how to use it. Robotics sounds like a project where they're going to build a life-size structure that moves and acts like a human. And that is not necessarily the case. You received two different types of robotic components in your kit. Neither one of them have arms and legs that move. So technology can be used in a lot of different ways. And it can certainly empower your students to learn. And you, as a facilitator or the educator, can be along for that ride. You don't have to have all the answers or know how to do everything right off the bat. So don't fear technology, learn technology. I wanted to show some examples of some teachers that have been using technology. So one of our rockstar teachers, Jay Jackson, was incorporating technology into his Rube Goldberg machines. And what you can see here is that Jay was using DC motors. He was using switches and batteries to create circuits. And then those circuits added to the different components of his Rube Goldberg machine. So they might be an in-between piece or one step in what those students were making. So in this case, you see that when the book closes, then it triggers the switch. Then that switch turns on the DC motor, and the motor moves a string, and the string releases a trigger for the car launcher, and then the car rolls down the ramp. In here you can see some of the components. These students were making a device that would dip an Oreo cookie into a glass of milk, not a glass of milk, a glass of milk. So they were also using switches in this process. So it's an interesting way of using technology in a Rube Goldberg machine that before necessarily didn't have that. They were not incorporating circuits previously, but now that gave a new life to the way that they were using the materials in their Rube Goldberg machine. Something else I wanted to share with you is where can you acquire more materials that you can use for technology in your classroom? And I wanted to share this book with you, this book title, because it gave me lots of motivation and understanding about how to look at different components used in technology. And this book is titled Unscrewed. And what I really like is this introduction paragraph that you see at the beginning of the book that says, "Let's go on a treasure hunt. Let's plunder old gizmos and gadgets for the good parts inside. If you are curious, if you want to know what's on the inside of that plastic or metal case, if you like to know how things work, this hunt is for you." What's wonderful about this book is it gives you information about how to find different pieces and components for your Rube Goldberg machine, for example, or other projects that you are doing by harvesting them from other technology pieces. So it goes through and gives a list of things like old hair dryers, VCRs, which most kids don't know what those are anymore today, different types of technology or tools, and how you can safely open those tools up and harvest different components from them, and then how you might use those different components. So it has a guide that goes by piece. So there's even something for answering machines, again, something your students probably are not familiar with, and how you could harvest different components and pieces from that. And what that book inspires you to do is to think differently about different pieces or of technology that you have, not even as a piece of technology, but as a gold mine of resources for materials. So you can think differently about the tools in your kit, not only for building things, but also for unbuilding things. So you can learn a lot about a machine by letting your students dissect them. The precision screwdrivers that you got in your toolkits, so those are the really small, skinny screwdrivers. Those are great for removing small screws that might be holding different electronic pieces together. And as you open those up, you might find examples of motors or wires or resistors that you're looking for. fans. Old computers have really great plastic fans that you can harvest and cut out and utilize in different circuit components or in creating circuit blocks. So you can get LED lights out of a lot of recycled materials. They are looking at electronics or technology not just as an object to physically use, but it could be an object to dissect in order to learn more about it. One of the really fun things that you can do in that situation is circuit bending. Circuit bending is where you take an open circuit board. So what you see here is this young man is using a tape deck, a cassette player, think back on that, to your old Walkman, and by touching different points on that circuit board can cause the sound or the music to come out of the tape player to bend or change. So it might change in pitch, it might change in volume, or it might change in speed. And these, you can see here in this picture that this is just run off of 2 AA batteries. So your students are not going to be hurt by touching different circuit components in that. So I brought one as an example. So here, for example, is what that student was using. This is a tape deck, as you can see right here. And they took the back part off, and then you see this whole circuit block that is here. And what you can do is put batteries in here, like this, and just leave it open. And then you take some of your alligator clips, and all you have to do is touch one end here and one end somewhere else on the circuit, and see what happens to the sound when you play the tape. And what's really exciting is the opportunity to map those circuits out. So you might have students who mark on the board, if you touch here and if you touch here, it does this, versus if you touch here and you touch here. So that's an example of circuit bending. So you could hack this tape player, take it apart, and do different kinds of things with it. Plus it's a chance to show kids what a cassette tape is and what a Walkman is, this ancient technology, and how you could use that in the classroom. Some things to keep in mind. Any questions, Patrick? Okay. Some examples of things to keep in mind when you're using technology. I have 5 suggestions for you when you're using technology in your classroom or in your makerspace or in your learning environment. And this is kind of a guide of some things to keep in mind when you're incorporating that.
Some of the sound is getting kind of faint.
Okay.
All right.
First, it's important to have a computer that you can use for programming. So this might be an iPad, it could be a Surface, it could be a Chromebook, but something that allows you to have access to programming techniques. So things such as Scratch or Scratch Junior. I don't know if any of you have tried or used Scratch or Scratch Junior before, but they are very easy programs to learn. If you sit down and give yourselves 20 to 30 minutes, you can begin to use Scratch confidently, especially if you've used things like Spheros or Dash and Dot and used block leaf programming. It's very similar. Scratch Junior is amazing on the iPad. It's just a free app, and it begins that process of drag and drop programming, and students can, while they're using that, they can create avatars or sprites, as they're called, which are characters. They can personalize those characters and begin learning that concept of those ideas of block leaf programming. Code.org has a lot of great resources. I know many of you have done Hour of Code. They have lots of support for that. Khan Academy is some great lessons and resources for going through and learning programs. There's lots of books like Python for Kids. I'm actually doing an app right now that's teaching, it's called Teach Yourself Programming. I'll look it up on my phone and show it to you, but I'm learning how to use Python, and it's just an app, and I do little lessons on it, and it walks me through the process of learning how to use that language. So you can even use a cell phone or a tablet to begin that process.
We did have one person that says it could still be a little bit louder. Possible.
Okay. Well, we can, yeah, good.
So in this slide, you see a picture of what a screen would look like when you're using Scratch. And the way that it is designed is that these blocks here have information for the program, and you can manipulate values within those blocks. So it might be a number based on the number of times that something is done. It could be a time value, how long you let something happen. It could be a value that is a color. It can have lots of options that you can alter or program in order to get whatever your desired outcome is. And there is a video component too. So there are sprites, for example, that have an action to them that correlate to the program that you are writing. And I'm going to show you a YouTube video here in a little bit of some examples of middle school students using the Hummingbird and the Scratch programming together. Something I want to point out, if you are using the Hummingbird Kit with Scratch, then when you get to the option for more blocks, as you see here in this picture, this is where you can add the Hummingbird component. Yes. Is that better now? Okay, sorry everyone. My microphone fell off, so that would probably be a reason why maybe you couldn't hear me. Did I just unplug the computer? Okay. So, Scratch programming, that's what we were talking about. If you haven't used Scratch, please take some time to do that. The Hummingbird, if you go to the Bird Brain Technology website that goes with the Hummingbird Kit, if you receive that, they give you directions on how to download Hummingbird version or the component for Scratch, and then it shows you how to use that with their programming. Here is a picture of Scratch Junior. I have this book. It's actually a really great book for teachers because it walks you through the application and use of Scratch Junior. And then you can see a picture of what the screen would look like and the different avatars or the different characters that they can use. And at the bottom here, you see these motion blocks. So this tells you in what direction you would have your characters move, and you can have them repeat it or turn and do lots of different things. And so it allows your students to start using this coding concept without depending on a language. Something to think about too is how important computer technology and programming is for your students' future. Iowa has recently begun the process of adopting some requirements for computer science in high schools. And so we as educators can look for those opportunities to provide students with some beginning steps or some encouraging steps in their journey of learning about coding and programming. And it's important because it's not just for people that are into computer science, but is definitely applicable for many different professions. But just as something that's a benefit of that is if you look at the open job opportunities that are out there for people who have skills in coding and programming, you see that there are a lot of availability for those types of jobs, as well as a great base pay compared to some other jobs that don't require those kinds of skills. So something for us to really begin, if you haven't already, thinking about how we can support that in our classrooms. So also, second piece of advice I have for you is to make technology available and accessible to your students. So think about if you only have the 4 Hummingbirds box or tablets, or you only have, the Cubelets, and it's not enough for everybody, maybe look at a sign-up system or a checkout system that would allow them to use that for a certain amount of time, and then they can return it when they're done. Think about appropriate workspace, and think about the safety of their access of them using those materials. For example, if you look here in this space that we have tables for students to work on, we also have Accessibility, so there is a computer workstation over here, but then we have other tables that they can move their materials to. Think about plugins and outlets if you're going to be using technology that's dependent on that. So over here in the picture we see an outlet or a power strip that's on the table so that students can plug into that, making it accessible for different sizes. So tables, if you're going to use tables that have an appropriate size or have enough space in order for those students to manipulate those components. Something else to think about is most people assume that technology is something that has to be plugged in, that it's something that has to involve a computer or that it has to have an on-off switch, and that's not necessarily the case. Technology is any kind of tool that you use in order to complete a task. So a screwdriver is a piece of technology, a pencil is a piece of technology. Sometimes we refer to those things as low tech versus high tech, which are those things that maybe demand a power source involved in using them. So think about the tools in your kit as a piece of technology also. Here's an example of something that our makers did over the summer. They made music boxes. So what you see here is a cam, basically a wheel that is on a turn knob, and it's got brads or fasteners, which you got in your kit, attached to a drum or the cam itself. It's like a thick cam. And then what you see is a box here, and these are bobby pins. And they have stapled these bobby pins to this block, and then as you rotate the cam or the drum here, then these pins hit the brads and it creates music. This is definitely using technology. This is low-tech technology. It doesn't have to be plugged in, and the tools used don't necessarily have to be plugged in either. So if you're concerned about safety or certain students or age groups using tools that have to be plugged in, or whether or not you have access to a power source when you're doing things, think differently about low-tech options that your students can use.
Can you explain those components one more time?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So they just happen to build this inside of a wooden box, so that magnifies the sound, making it easier to hear the sounds from the music box itself. But what there is here is this is a dowel rod, and it has a drum. It's a cardboard tube, basically, that has these fasteners or brads that are attached to them, and the students had to measure where to put those brads and the configuration of them to get the different sounds. Then you can see the dowel rod comes through here and is attached to this handle. So this is the handle that is turned in order to create the motion, which is like how a cam works in an automaton situation, but it rotates or turns that drum. This part here, this block, has bobby pins or hairpins that are stapled to it, and it's the length of the pin that hits this, that hits the different fasteners that creates a different sound. So the vibration leads to the different pitch of the sound from that pin. So they almost had to map out the music sounds or the music notes first so that they knew which note each one of these bobby pins most correlated with, and then they mapped out the song with where these fastener heads are on the drum. Lots of problem solving and going through and figuring that out. So adding a musical component using these low-tech tools to make an instrument. Some other things to think about are, what technologies do you have access to? More so than just what you received in the kit, think about what other things are in your building or in your environment or in your school that maybe you could have access to. For example, a 3D printer. And 3D printers have a lot of challenges if you've ever used them before. One of them is the cost. So maybe it might not be something you have in your school or have in your room, but if you are able to have access to one, maybe you have a local business So you might ask if you have a college or university nearby, or if you have an architecture firm, they may have a 3D printer that you could use. So your students could build files on their own and then perhaps transfer those to a 3D printer that's somewhere else. 3D printers are also very loud. They are also very testy. The extruder can get jammed, so they take some maintenance and sometimes some tender loving care to them. But if you don't have access to one, definitely look around to see who might have. Maybe another school in your district has a 3D printer. We'll talk a little bit more about 3D printers at the end of this webinar. Can you go on a field trip to use a certain kind of tool or a piece of technology? It could be something for welding. It could be a computer component or something like that, a more specific piece of tool that would assist your students in their project that you don't directly have. So take a survey and find out who locally might have some materials that you need. So here's an example of a classroom, an industrial tech classroom that was retired and then brought back to life. So in this school, the industrial tech program was closed down for a number of years, and then they rejuvenated that in the theme of a makerspace because there was already lots of tools in there. I've seen makerspaces here in Iowa that were actually in old family consumer science rooms. So they have ovens, they have stoves, they have microwaves, and they have sinks in their makerspace. So look at the other kinds of equipment maybe outside of your room or even outside of your building that might support your students in their learning. And the last piece of advice I have for you in terms of looking at technology in your classroom is dream and dream big. If you really want a 3D printer, find a way to make it happen. If you want a bank of 3D printers so that you have more than one, then make a list, do some research on the kind of printers you might be interested in, and then look for local funding, look for regional funding, look at local grants. Technology is a very hot topic right now, and if you can give some support to why you're asking for these kinds of materials, then that can help to, especially if it's an addition to something you already have. So if you say, we have some Arduinos in our Hummingbird kits already, and we would like to add more options to that, or we'd like to get more Hummingbird kits to go along with it, then that could support that ask or that option for funding. And also in this Have a Dream, keep searching and looking too, because there's tons of options out there for technology that maybe you don't even know about yet. I am constantly asking people about new materials that they have, both on a professional level or in an educational setting, to see what they are using. I recently spoke with one of the employees of Bird Brain Technology who does the hummingbirds. I met with her over Christmas break, and she was talking to me about the option that they have for Bluetooth connection for Hummingbird. So that's new over the last year, that you can hook that up to your Hummingbird board, and then you can control it from an iPad or another Bluetooth device, so it doesn't have to be plugged into a computer, which could change some options for how you use it. You can also hook up a battery pack, so it doesn't have to be wired to anything. So it could be within a device or a structure that moves on its own power and doesn't have to be attached to a computer. That's a new advancement that they just came out with in the last year. So keep searching and looking for new ideas, and please feel free to share those with us. You can use our Twitter page or our Facebook page to say, hey, here's something great that I found. Has anybody tried this? We saw this at a local science fair. Has anybody, had experience? Or, share with us the incredible things you've been able to do with something new that you found. I told you we'd come back to this idea of 3D printers. I want to talk about this a little bit because I hear a lot of teachers talking about 3D printers and what they use it for. And I think it's something for us to have good discussion about uses of 3D printers. This gentleman, who was formerly editor-in-chief of Wired magazine, said that he thinks that 3D printing will be bigger than the web. And I think if you think about it correctly, that's probably a true statement, because what it allows you to do is to prototype ideas and designs and print those out on a somewhat quick basis, try them out, see how it meets your needs, and then modify it digitally on your computer program and then print out this new piece. So you can create on a digital world and translate that into a tangible piece using your 3D printer. And most of us think of this as a 3D printer using ABS or PLS plastic, similar to your 3D pen that you received in your kit. But there are lots of versions of 3D printers out there. I've seen 3D printers that print with concrete. I've seen 3D printers that print with living tissue matrices. So you can 3D print. I have seen them 3D print an ear structure. So a patient who lost their external part of their ear, they had a piece that they were grafting on, and they 3D printed this tissue on top of it so that this person had a aesthetic ear. So it wasn't functional, but it aesthetically looked like an ear. So I think the world of 3D printing and biological materials is about to explode. There's lots of talk about 3D printing organs and different tissue grafts. I've seen 3D printed food. They talk about taking a 3D printer into space and creating food using the 3D printer, printing out a protein matrix into a food structure. So the world of 3D printing, we're just on the cusp of the explosion of what's going to happen with that. So if you have an opportunity to learn how to use one, or to practice, or take a class, or attend a workshop, please try that. And then from there, decide how could that be useful in your learning environment. One thing I advocate too is that if you're going to use a 3D printer, allow your students to design components, not just print off things that they find on the web. They will find out that in their design process, it's very important how they tell the printer to print. And if they don't translate their design in a way that the printer understands, they'll get something totally different than what they intended. So there's really good problem-solving opportunities in that process of designing and translating that into their actual print. I was mentioning earlier, lots of options here for 3D printing. We talked about healthcare. I've seen 3D printed fabrics in different components in fashion, different fasteners for fabrics, ways to attach them, things like buttons that are 3D printed, and personal applications. There's a guide here that I've attached, and I don't know if Patrick can copy that. If not, I'm happy to send out these links. And it's a wonderful guide that was put out by a publication, PC Magazine, on how to shop for a 3D printer and look for what might meet your needs. Sometimes people ask me about brands, they ask me about sizes, and it depends on what are your needs, what are you looking to do, what are your pre-existing options for technology, and how those go together. So I think this is a really great article for you to look at. To get some information about it.
I sent the Tinkercad one, but the long one I'm going to ask you.
Yes, I'd be happy to send that really long one. It's a link to an article that was written for PC Magazine. So I'll be happy to send that out to you as a guide for searching and shopping for a 3D printer. So if you're interested in a 3D printer and you're saying, how do I convince people we need to have one? How do I let our district know? How do I let a funder know, or a grant application? How do I let them know? How do I let our community know this is something that we want? Is to look at ways that you can show application of students using them. So 3D printers in education really allow you to model, which is a big part of NGSS, model things that they have learned or applications of that. So you see this student here is working on, she has 3D printed a hand, and then there are different ligaments or strings that are attached to this hand that she is modeling the motion of the human hand and how it works. We actually went on a tour at Drake University, which is here in Des Moines, and spoke with a chemistry professor, a biochemistry professor, and he 3D prints molecules to show what they look like and how they interact. So he 3D prints things like enzymes and protein structures on a scale that is the size of a basketball, and then can demonstrate for students how those components of the enzyme and the molecule that it is trying to break down, how do they fit together? And what happens, let's say, that there is something wrong in the way that the enzyme is shaped, and it could be due to denaturization or pH change or something like that, and now how that molecule that it is trying to break down doesn't fit into the active site. And he said it has changed the way he's able to teach these concepts, because before he had to show a two-dimensional picture, and now the students can hold the enzyme in their hand and have an understanding of how those molecules interact and why they need to have the specific shape that they do. So thinking differently about what you could do with a 3D printer in your classroom. So it gives you an opportunity to make three-dimensional visual aids that either you or your students themselves could design. So these students here, they've 3D printed a double helix, which again is really important in teaching biological sciences when you're talking about DNA, and gives them that tactical way to study that molecule. This also allows students to take something that is of interest to them and have an application to it, taking it from just a picture into an actual object. So they can design something in a program like Tinkercad and then manipulate it and print that out and use that for whatever project they are working on. So it could be that they are building something for the Rube Goldberg machine and they just need one piece that will connect this to that. Well, they could design that. They could design it in a design software program and then translate that to their 3D printer and print that piece out to their specific needs. Instead of having to find something that would do that, they could just make their own. It's a completely different way of thinking of materials. Instead of saying, I have to find one or I have to go online and look for something, why not design it and print it yourself? That's the empowering nature of something like a 3D printer that would allow you to do that. So students can make that piece for their project instead of just, as we were saying, trying to find it somewhere else or find something that will fit or make it work. It enhances hands-on learning because they can prototype. So they could say, we're going to design a bridge structure that has a span of this distance using support structures that have this diameter. And they could try that out, test it for stability, and then make modifications in their design software and then print it out again. So it allows them to go through a quick prototyping, fairly quick prototyping cycle so that they can modify their design and then apply new concepts or those modifications or changes to it. So again, if you haven't yet had an opportunity to work with a 3D printer, I suggest that you find one locally. If you don't already have one in your district, chances are there might be one in your district if you don't already have one in your building, and ask about that and see what is the availability of that for you to use. I wanted to show you here that the Hummingbird Kit, I get a lot of questions about using the Hummingbird Kit and the board and how do we do that. So the company that makes them is called Hummingbird, and they have great tutorials on their website, specifically on how to use Scratch. So that is the link that is here. If you go to their website, you can easily find these. But I wanted to show you a little bit of a video of some 8th grade students. They were using one of the first renditions of the Hummingbird Kit along with Scratch, and I just wanted you to see some options of how they were able to do it.
I'm Sam, and I did the surprised kitty meme for my Hummingbird robot.
Okay. Aw, look on the screen and in life. Oh, cute. I'll do it one more time.
I don't know the others. Okay. I forgot where that was.
Good job.
Look at my dog.
All right.
I'm Dylan,
I'm Anil.
and this is Realistic Racing Simulator 2015.
Ah, all right.
So to start the game, you click the green flag and then you click the space bar.
Then you use the arrow keys to go up and down once the game starts.
3, 2, 1. Go! Here comes the road. So you're avoiding the other cars?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you hit a car, this makes an explosion sound.
Cool.
And when you're ready to stop the game, you just press 1.
Awesome. That is really great, guys. Thank you.
I'm Austin.
I'm Bryn.
This is our Domino's project.
And the instructions are to set up the dominoes and motor and press the green flag. And we already set up the dominoes and motor, so.
There's pressing the green flag. Dominoes all on the screen. All in real life. Yay! And the lights flash. Awesome group. I was about to say guys and girls. Okay. One more time.
I'm Taylor. And I'm Ratika. And this is our project. So you click the green
Carousel.
flag to start.
Okay.
And then you drag the money to the cash card to load up.
Alright, so we're adding onto the cash card. Cool.
Then you take the cash card and swipe it at the ticket booth.
How cute. Awesome. Thank you, girls.
Hi, I'm Alexander,
And I'm Barrett.
and we built a security system. So if someone walks by, it will detect you, and if you don't say a passcode, it will get mad and shoot a catapult at you.
Okay. Okay, so that's somebody walking by.
Say a passcode.
Passcode.
Ah, so now it's a smiley face because it was the right passcode?
Yes.
Okay, can you do it again when it's not the right passcode?
Say a passcode.
Oh, look at the frowny face. And the lights come on. And it shoots. Oh, that's awesome. Good job, guys.
I'm Addie. And I'm Ann Stewart. And this is our Tower of Terror.
All right.
Boo.
Oh, it's going up.
Go! Okay. Win like go!
Cute.
Ours looks so terrible. I'm Peyton. And I'm Malia. And this is our Radio Cowboy.
Okay. You going over? Getting on the pole. He gets slunked off. How fun! There you go.
Hi, my name's Cooper.
Hi, my name's Addie.
This is our peacock, and you can feed it.
Oh, wait.
The instructions are: number 1, press the peacock to start. Number 2, press the left arrow key to move the food into the peacock's mouth. Number 3, press the green flag to feed it again.
So I'm gonna click the peacock, and then move the food into its mouth.
Cute. Do that one more time for me, can you? Move into his mouth. And he chomps and the bird pops up. Cute. Thank you, girls. All right.
My name's Jack.
My name's Nicholas.
And this is the cross shooter.
The instructions are: you have to put the ball into the cross stick and score it. Press the green flag and score a goal.
Look at him moving on the screen. All right, can you do that one more time for me? Just reset it real fast. Okay, so you're putting the ball in the
cross stick.
stick.
Pressing the green flag.
He shoots it into the goal. Yay! Awesome. Good job. All right.
My name is Lexi, and this is my storm cloud. To start it, I'm going to wave my hand over the sensor.
How cute. How fun. Thank you, Lexi.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Walt.
And this is our goalie penalty kick game. So you just place the ball on either the free kick or penalty kick stand, and you flick it with your finger.
Yay!
Gold!
Cute, guys. Good job.
Hey, I'm Selena, and that's our dancing cavalier. And we have a DJ and a dancing woman.
Okay.
And spinning disco balls.
Fun.
And when it's saying passcode, start speaking. If not, it gets upset.
It should stop now.
Oh, there goes the ball. Cute. And there she goes. She's starting to dance. Cool. Thank you, girls.
So I just wanted to show you that video. I can send that link to you if you're interested of just some examples of how these 8th grade students were able to combine Scratch programming with the Hummingbird Kit in order to create those projects. I wanted to tell you that over the summer, I was able to meet Eric Rosenbaum, and he is one of the developers of Scratch from MIT, and I was really excited. I was kind of starstruck. He also is one of the co-creators of the Makey that you received in your kit. And he told us that they are developing a new version of Scratch. They're working on that, Scratch 3. So I'm really excited to see what that's gonna look like. And he is super passionate about helping people to have a great experience with technology and really expand their learning and their thinking of that. It was amazing to talk to him and see how he's related to education, both as somebody who makes materials for education, as well as somebody who is professionally an educator himself. So it was really exciting. There's another video here that I have that's on Cubelets. I won't show this one, but what's happening here is that these people took the Cubelet device, or they made a robot out of the Cubelet that moves, and they just taped a marker to it. And then as the Cubelet moves with different repeated motions, then it creates this drawing. So imagine that your students could do that with a Cubelet structure, that they could build that and attach a marker or a crayon or a paintbrush, something to it, and create different patterns, kind of like a spirograph almost, but using robotics instead. This next video I would like to show to you. It's not very long. It's a TED Talk. And I might need my technology friend to help me with this one again too. But what's really great about this one is this is a young man from California. This is back when he was in 6th grade, and he's going to talk to you about how he started making apps using the iPhone.
If you write anything on your computer, you need to get Grammarly.
I write pretty much all day, every day, and Grammarly makes my writing better.
As a student, I like that it's free.
Spelling errors, and even helps me find the right words to use so I can.
Hello everyone, my name is Thomas Juarez. I've always had a fascination for computers and technology, and I made a few apps for the iPhone, iPod Touch, and iPad. I'd like to share a couple with you today. My first app was a unique fortune teller called Earth Fortune that would display different colors of Earth depending on what your fortune was. My favorite and most successful app is Bustin' Jeeber, which is a Justin Bieber whack-a-mole. I created it because a lot of people at school disliked Justin Bieber a little bit, so I decided to make the app. So I went to work programming it, and I released it just before the holidays in 2010. A lot of people ask me, how did I make these? A lot of times it's because the person who asked the question wants to make an app also. A lot of kids these days like to play games, but now they want to make them. And it's difficult because not many kids know where to go to find out how to make a program. I mean, for soccer, you could go to a soccer team. For violin, you could get lessons for a violin. But what if you want to make an app? And the kids' parents might have done some of these things when they were young, but not many parents have written apps. Where do you go to find out how to make an app? Well, this is how I approached it. This is what I did. First of all, I've been programming in multiple other programming languages to get the basics down, such as Python, C, Java, etc. And then Apple released the iPhone, and with it, the iPhone Software Development Kit. And the Software Development Kit is a suite of tools for creating and programming an iPhone app. This opened up a whole new world of possibilities for me. And after playing with the Software Development Kit a little bit, I made a couple apps. I made some test apps. One of them happened to be Earth Fortune, and I was ready to put Earth Fortune on the App Store. And so I persuaded my parents to pay the $99 fee to be able to put my apps on the App Store. They agreed, and now I have apps on the App Store. I've gotten a lot of interest and encouragement from my family, friends, teachers, and even people at the Apple Store, and that's been a huge help to me. I've got a lot of inspiration from Steve Jobs. I started an app club at school, and a teacher at my school is kindly sponsoring my app club. Any student at my school can come and learn how to design an app. This is so I can share my experiences with others. There's these programs called the iPad Pilot Program, and some districts have them. I'm fortunate enough to be part of one. A big challenge is, how should the iPads be used, and what apps should we put on the iPads? So we're getting feedback from teachers at the school to see what kind of apps they'd like. When we design the app and we sell it, it will be free to local districts and other districts that we sell to. All the money from that will go into the local ed foundations. These days, students usually know a little bit more than teachers with the technology. So, sorry. So this is a resource to teachers, and educators should recognize this resource and make good use of it. I'd like to finish up by saying what I'd like to do in the future. First of all, I'd like to create more apps, more games. I'm working with a third-party company to make an app. I'd like to get into Android programming and development. And I'd like to continue my app club and find other ways for students to share knowledge with others. Thank you.
So I love that story of that young boy back in 2011 when he was only a sixth grader. You can follow him on the internet. Thomas Juarez has started his own company as an adult now, and ironically he's making apps and using lots of technology to do that. But what I loved about what he was telling us in that story is that it's okay if kids know more about how to use the technology than their teachers. What we can do as educators is support them as they are learning and to help them find the avenues for the answers that they are looking. It doesn't mean we have to have all the answers. It doesn't mean we have to know how to code ourselves, although we should have some experience with it, but we don't necessarily have to know all of the things before they get started. We can learn along with them. So we could be learning the language, we could be learning about apps. And if you've ever gone on the App Store before and seen all the gabillions and jillions of apps that are out there, this is how they are created because people make them and then can design them and then put them out there for other people to purchase. So that could be an option, it could be a program, maybe a project that some of your students are interested in as well. Another resource I always like to show you places that you can get more information. And one of those resources we've talked about in the past is the Makerspace Playbook. And you can use this again to find out more information about technology and how to use that. address that is up here, if you go to that, you can download a PDF version. I think it's like 76 pages long, and then you could print that out. That's what I have done, and I just use it as a great resource for ideas of how to use different things, in this case specifically technology. Our Invent to Learn book that you received at the training that came in the green bag has in chapter 7 some things that they call the game changers. One of the founding people really of this maker movement was really into, he actually wrote some of the languages that led to Scratch, the logo language that was used, and he was very innovative in thinking about how students can use technology different than how we do it. It's interesting because we used to use technology in the classroom for students to learn how to basically program computers. Then we kind of changed it into usage of those same programs. And now what we're seeing is people that are going back and talking about how to program themselves so that we're not dependent on other people writing the programs, but we learn how to write them for ourselves and what our specific needs are. So you'll find information here on chapter 7 about, again, fabricating using 3D printers that we talked about, things like Raspberry Pis and Arduinos, and then how to use different languages or different programs that maybe bypass the concept of language, like Scratch, and allow you to program that way. Also, in the Art of Tinkering book that you received, there's some information in there about how to use technology. If you look on page 82 to 89, you will see ways to use sewable circuits or wearable technology. And some other things. And one of my favorite things you see in there is a chain reaction machine, which is otherwise known as a Rube Goldberg machine. And I have one more video that I would like to show you that is linked on here, and it is actually a music video for a group called OK Go. And if you are not familiar with this group, they make incredible videos, very scientifically based videos, and this is one about about a gigantic Rube Goldberg machine. And so we're going to watch this, and I want you to think about the technology that is involved. And for me, what is really striking about this, and as with any Rube Goldbergs, is how you can teach the concept of energy transfer and talk about potential energy and kinetic energy. And if you notice at the very beginning of the video, the lead singer of the group takes a little red truck and he knocks down one domino. And from that, the rest of what you see is all energy that is being released as kinetic energy that was initiated by that one first domino being pushed down. So that initial energy that was put into that system to get it to all start. So we're going to watch this video really quick. Thank you. I'm sorry. That'll be the last one.
Colleague. Or a post on Facebook that all your friends
So I hope you enjoyed that video. We were all chuckling here as we were watching it because it's quite amazing to think about how much time and effort was put into that. But Rube Goldberg machines are a really great way to incorporate lots of components that you might find in your makerspace, both high-tech and low-tech. So if you do some Rube Goldberg machines or components of that, we'd love to see pictures and share with us ideas or things that you've tried, new ways that you're incorporating things into your machines. So we are at the end of our webinar. We're going to be done a little bit early today. As always, I welcome any questions that you have. Again, you can put them in the chat room really quick. Reminder that our fourth and final webinar will be on Thursday, February 13th, 4:30 to 6:30 again. And the theme we're going to have for the last one is challenges and outcomes of maker education. So it's a chance to just talk about what do we do? How do we incorporate this? How do we include things like standards, assessment, any of those questions or challenges that you have. Please go ahead and send those to me, and I will work on preparing something or addressing that. I'm going to do a showcase of materials that people have been sharing to show all of you the amazing work that people have been doing. So if you have any stories or videos that you would like to send in that I can include in the next webinar, please do so. And Patrick, any questions in the chat box?
We don't have any questions right now. Oh, we got one. How do we use the GoPro?
Oh, excellent question. So the GoPro camera, when you get the GoPro, there will be a way for you to sync that to, if you would like, sync it to a cellular device. So you can sync it to a cell phone or you can sync it to a tablet, something that has an app. It has to have the availability for the app if you want to use it remotely through Bluetooth. Now, if you don't have that accessibility, then what you can do is you got a micro SD card. It's a teeny tiny little SD card that came in its own package separate from the GoPro. So you put that into the camera and then you can push, there's really only 2 buttons to push on the GoPro. And if you push the one that's on the top, it'll scroll through and you can see the options for what setting you want to have. So if you want to have it on video, and if you want to have it on taking a camera, you can do bursts, things like that. You can do time lapse. So you can set it all that way, and then you can just push start, and it'll flash a red light whenever it is taking the video or the picture. So you can do it completely separate from any kind of device or app. If you choose to do that, then when you're done, you can take that little micro SD card out, and then you got an SD card adapter, so it has a USB port. You can put that little SD card into the adapter and then plug that into your computer and then access any of the videos or the pictures from that. You can download onto a computer a special program that will help you in accessing those GoPro pictures and allow you to manipulate them. Again, it's free, but you can go to the GoPro website and it'll help you through that. If you use a mobile or cellular device and you have an app, then there is an app you can download. And I'm sorry that I didn't bring my GoPro with me, but I can show you what the app looks like on my phone. Well, it doesn't want to hook up without, maybe I can. But what you can do then through your mobile device, let me see if I can get it to do it without it. What you can do with the mobile device then is you can remotely control the camera. Oh, it's not going to want to let me do it. Sorry, I can put something on the on an email that can show you too. But it'll let you remotely. If I don't have the camera, then it doesn't have anything to sync to. But you can then remotely control it. So you can tell it, I want to do a video, I want to do pictures, all of those things. As long as you are within the distance of your Bluetooth range, then you can control the camera using your device. You can also access any of the pictures that are on that device. So you can live stream from your GoPro onto your phone. So you don't even have to push record. You could just look at it. So for example, what we did in the preschool at the Science Center is we put the GoPro into, they were studying hermit crabs. We put the camera into the hermit crab dwelling, their little environment that they created for it. And then the preschoolers sat on the carpet with an iPad and live streamed it so they could see what the hermit crab was doing when they were not standing directly over and watching it. So it was quite amazing. They could even record that so they could save it as a video, and then they could put it up onto their touch screen or their whiteboard and show it to other people as part of their evidence and their project-based learning work that they were doing. So you can, I personally like doing it with my cellular device because then I can access all of the pictures and videos, and then I can manipulate them and delete them. But then you can put it onto your camera or onto your computer later and do other things with it. If you want some help in how to set that up, GoPro has on their website, you can certainly call me or email me, and I'm happy to walk you through that. Also, GoPro has great support, and I have done live chat with them, I have done emails with them, and I have done actual live phone calls, and the people are very supportive and helpful, and they will always support their product. You do not have to have a receipt, you don't have to have some proof of purchase. If you say, this is the device that I'm using, they will help you and support you in that. So they support their product in that way, in being able to use it. And remember too, they can also give you information on what are the limitations of your GoPro. So if you're curious, can we do this with it? What would be the challenges if we wanted to do this or this? They can give you some advice on how to use that in a safe manner, or what to let you know what are the crazy things that you can do with your GoPro camera.
Do you want to share places that they can share their ideas and lessons or activities that they've done in the classroom?
Yes. So if you have tried something and you would like to share it with the rest of our Making STEM Connection family, there's a couple of different options for that. One of them is to email it to me. Sometimes people send me access to their Google page and I can look at it through there, or they just email it to me directly. And then what I do is I try to repost that and send that out through emails or in examples like we saw today through webinars. Also the Facebook page. If you are on Facebook, you can look for our Facebook page, which is SCI Making STEM Connections. And it is a closed Facebook page. So if you ask to join, then I will go on there and I will accept you. And then once you're on there, it's only people within that group that can see the materials that are there. And teachers have been using that wonderfully, sharing ideas and asking others for suggestions or help or advice of how to do something. And the third option that we have is our Twitter page. So if you try something and you want to share that on Twitter, we had an educator who before the holiday break had her students make hats out of polar fleece. So they were using the sewing machines so that each student made a hat. And then after they returned from holiday break, they went on a field trip and all of the students got to wear those hats. So she was sharing that on our Facebook page, or Twitter page, and then I will repost those so other people can see that as well. So those are kind of three different options as ways that we could do that. Also for those of you in the Northwest region and the Southwest region, I'm going to be coming out to your areas to share more information about making STEM connections. So if you have questions about that, you are welcome to contact me or Mary Trent for the Northwest region, or Deb Frazee for the Southwest region. And if you have specific questions or something you'd like me to bring and share at those PD events, just let me know and I'll make sure that I bring that. I will bring the GoPro camera for sure. And if you're able to attend one of those sessions, then I can give you some information on specifically how to set up your GoPro.
Can you give everybody the actual Twitter handle and Facebook group name?
Yes, I can. So the Facebook group is called SCI Making STEM Connections, and the Twitter page is @Sciowa Makers. And at the training, in your green notebook, there was a little half sheet that had the information about our Instagram page as well as our Pinterest page. So the Siowa Makers, can I put this under here? Can it read it? So the Siowa Maker page for Twitter, if you do the @Siowa, I don't know if we can turn the light down, but so you can see here is the handle right here. And then if you post something and you do @Siowa Makers, then I can retweet that to other people if you tag us in that. That's fine. And, oh, there we go. So you can see right here, @Siowa Makers. That is the page. And I will quickly show you the Facebook page. You can hold on just a moment. And here is our Facebook page, our SCI, Making STEM Connections, closed Facebook page. And there's 148 members on the Facebook page, which is great because then you have lots of resources of ways for sharing and people to contribute to your questions or the projects, give reflections on them. I'll scroll through this a little bit, and you can see some amazing things that people are posting in this, videos and different projects that they are working on. Questions that people are asking, videos that people find interesting that they want to post on there, projects that they're trying. So it's a great chance for people to share information.
One of them wanted to share. Give me 1 second, sorry. Sorry, I'm just trying to find it.
Well, as Patrick is looking for that and as he's finishing up, again, if you have any thoughts or questions, you can always send those to me ahead of time so that I can bring that maybe to the webinar. So I'll make a note next time to bring the GoPro with me so that I can show it to you and show you the link between the GoPro and my phone. So if you have any specific questions like that, you always feel free to send me an email ahead of time so that I make sure that I bring that with me to the webinar.
The question was, will the videos be shared after this webinar?
Yes, great question. So after we're done today, this video will be processed by the staff here at Heartland AEA. They send that to me, and then I will have it uploaded to our YouTube page, and then I put the link for that onto our Making Connections page, our web page. So if you, also at the training, you received that, that URL address as well as the login and the password. If you don't have those anymore, just send me an email and I'll send those out to you. It's specific to which region you are from. So I can send that to you, and then you can access all of these recorded webinars as well as some other videos and supportive materials for you on that website. It takes about a week or so once we get it and get it all processed. So we should have it up probably by next week for sure if you are wanting to share this with other people who are not able to be here today. Any other last thoughts or questions?
No, I just wanted to say one thing quickly is we haven't actually tried this, but talking about that low-tech technology, one of our staff members discovered that there is conductive felting material that you can, we haven't tried it, so we have no idea how it works, but we've all went through the training with the felting, and it's basically just felting conductive material into your felt, and then you would have to of course make the attachments with LEDs or whatever else you choose to use that with. Like I said, haven't tried it, not sure if it's how it works, but that's something that you could maybe take a look at to expand that felting one next level. And I did make notes that I will ask Jolie to send out not only the links, but also the 8th grade scratch link was one of them that was mentioned, as well as the professor at Drake. If we could get at least that contact information. We'll have to make sure that that's okay with him as well, but wanted to make sure that I did let everyone know that I did make those notes. And then also a big shout out to Sue Peterson. She put in the chat that she got a 3D printer from a grant from her library, so just wanted to give a shout out to you for that, so good job.
Yay, Sue! Good job. I'm excited to hear how you use that at the library. I'm sure lots of us would love to learn from your experience too of in a public space like a library, how do you utilize a 3D printer? It'll be interesting to see how your community uses that as well, and what are the opportunities that you're able to provide for them. So yay, Sue, great job. So all right, that's it for now. We'll be back again next month with our final webinar, again on opportunities and challenges that we have with Makerspaces. So please send me any of your thoughts, questions, your celebrations. I would love to share with other people the amazing work that you are doing. So tell me your stories and we'll include that in our next webinar so we can share those out. So thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you again next month. It's on February 13th, Tuesday, February 13th, from 4:30 to 6:30 again.